I've been really focusing on just like creative deal structure, not trying to present a certain strategy to a seller, because I'm more about like just listening to what the seller has to say. I'm wasting so much time if I'm trying to do my own maintenance and all that stuff, because I can just pay someone to do that for less than what I would charge to do it.
One thing I tell people, they're like, how do you get started? How do you do this? And like, how did you figure this out? And I say, I asked for help.
Mm-hmm. The best deals come from solving weird, complicated problems that people have that may cause them to have to sell a piece of real estate.
I think endurance sports definitely translates into our businesses.
Yeah.
Just the mindset and powering through things. There's a big correlation with endurance sports and being an entrepreneur or a real estate investor. I think they have a lot of similarities.
Brace yourself for a wild ride into the unexpected. This ain't your typical success show. I'm here talking to real folks who've been through it all, skipping the fancy business talk for authentic stories. We're diving into childhood dreams, teenage escapades, and everything in between. No scripts, just the stories that truly mold success. Each episode takes you on a journey through those breakthrough moments that paved their way. No fluff, just genuine stories. So whether you're chasing dreams or just love a good story, buckle up for wisdom, laughs, and the unexpected. This is the Breakthrough Podcast, where success is a journey, not just some fancy destination. Don't miss out. Hit the subscribe button now and join our Breakthrough crew. I got some incredible stories to share, and you won't want to miss a single one.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Breakthrough with Stevie Husted. Today I've got a really awesome guest for you. I'm sitting down with my buddy, Cody Gagnon. He's a real estate investor, endurance athlete, all-around hustler. We actually met at the 𝗲𝗶𝘀ance conference a couple years ago, and he's been on some insane adventures since then. In this episode, Cody's going to break down how he found one of his best deals through, get this, his landscaper. Plus, we dive into his strategy for splitting lots, building duplexes, and how he's navigating today's crazy market. Oh, and if you're into endurance sports, you won't want to miss his wild story about racing across the state of Florida. Paddling, biking, trekking for 72 hours straight. Yeah, you got that right. This conversation is full of insights, laughs, some hard-earned lessons from real estate grind. You don't want to miss it. Let's dive in. All right, buddy.
Cool, man. How you been?
Good, man. I'm glad I was able to get you on.
Yeah, it's been a little while. Probably a lot's happened since then. That was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, was it 2 years ago from that 𝗲𝗶𝘀ance conference?
Yeah, 2022 in San Diego.
Interesting enough, I was just thinking about this when I was driving over here. I think I've had everybody who I personally met at that conference on the podcast.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, man.
I think you're like the last one. And I think it was very random. I think I saw you post something on Instagram, and then I sent the post over to my assistant, and I said, hey, let's reach out to Cody. Let's get him on the podcast. Like, I go, he's doing cool stuff, and I want to follow up. And
yeah, for sure. But you're probably one of the few people that I've followed since that meetup. Those seminars are just so big that you meet so many people surface level, but we had some similarities in going out and just riding stupid miles on bikes and stuff like that. So I kept keeping up with your story. It's been good.
Yeah, and that's a cool thing too, right? You start to like connect with somebody. It's not just about real estate. You know, it's the biking part, the aspect of it, or, oh, Cody's got another project. All right, let's see where's he going to take this one?
Yeah. The one we just started like a month ago, that's probably the biggest project that I've done up to this point, and we can get into that. But I felt like that one was a turning point for me, because it was like one of the biggest ones I've taken on. It was one of the best deals that I've gotten. It was one of my first like true motivated sellers. We always I might make a deal or whatever, but this guy, that was my first real motivated seller experience. And it was like an aha moment for me, because I was like, okay, I know exactly what I'm looking for now. Like when I'm out door knocking or cold calling, if I'm not hearing those types of words or feeling those types of feelings, then yeah, they might be interested in selling, but they're probably not. There's no real motivation there. So
yeah, and you got that over time and experience.
Yeah.
And more defining your buy box, so to speak.
Yep.
Yeah. So tell me how you found this one. Tell me the whole.
Yeah.
Give me it all.
Yeah,
let's hear
for
it.
Sure. Well, this is the last deal I did. I had two going, but one of them didn't close. But this one, I actually own a duplex right up the street from this house. And I've been doing a lot of cold calling and door knocking, more door knocking than cold calling. But in this particular case, it was actually my landscaper that brought me the deal. He'd been cutting the yard to this house for like 10 years. And I have a duplex right up the street from there. So he'd go from there to that house and then leave. And he had just finished that house up, and the owner showed up as usual to hand him a check. And he was just venting to him, I think. And he was like, I just had some family move out of this house. They've been living there for several years, and he didn't realize how they were living in there and really what the real conditions of the house were. And he was just over it. He's like, I have to get rid of this house. I don't ever want to come back to Eastridge again. I just need to get rid of it. And then Danny, who's my landscaper, he just thought of me because we're always talking. He cuts all my properties too, so he just knows that I'm in the business. So he called me to tell me. He said, hey man, you won't believe this guy's just saying he needs to get rid of this house. Here's his info. And then, I had to meet with that seller maybe 3 or 4 times, but we eventually made a deal. And this one's a single family. Usually, I don't really try to hold houses. If it's single family, I'll usually just try to flip it and take the cash and dump it into some multifamily or some type of buy and hold. So at the time, it was a 4-bed, 1.5 bath on a 1.6 acre lot. And it's on a corner lot too. So it has road access on both sides. And it just got lucky enough that the house sits to the back side of it. So we had the house, I'm splitting the lot, the survey and all that stuff still in the works, but we're getting 2 lots out of the bottom of it where we plan on, putting a couple of duplexes actually. So I just turned into a really good deal. And he, as far as price goes and stuff, I met up with him 3 or 4 times before we actually made a deal, because he said that he was going to offer it up to a couple family members first and stuff like that. And I was like, so what do you think the house is worth? And he says, I always got to have $100,000 for it. And I was trying to hide my, I was like, oh, okay, just trying to, in my head, I knew that the house, when it was done, was worth $300,000, just the house itself, not even including the lot split and all that stuff. So we get inside, it's nasty. They had a bunch of pets. There was literally like cockroaches coming out of the toaster, all kinds of crazy stuff. And we're getting like one of the worst rooms of the house. And I'm like, I was like, what do you really need for this house? And he started at $100,000. I was like, let's see what he says. And he was like, like I said, man, I'd probably really need $100,000. And long story short, that's what I got it for. But the ARV is about 300 to 320 because we turned into a 4-bed, 2-bath. It's 1,700 square feet. And then the lots themselves, those will be free and clear, but those just by themselves are about 30,000 a piece. They're little like 10,000 square foot lots. But across the street, like I said, I have that duplex. It's all duplexes over there. So we're going to split them and then try to get them rezoned as R2, put 2 duplexes there, and those will be holds. And when I say we, I brought a partner in on this one. He does a lot of flips, like 5 or 6 flips at a time. And he just has a lot more experience with some bigger construction projects. So I brought him in for 1, just because I knew that was going to be the biggest project that I had. But 2, he also had the private money connection at this point. So I brought the deal, he brought the funding and some of his, we kind of put our contractors together, but he just brought some of the experience behind it. And it just worked out really good, man, because up to this point, I've been bootstrapping everything, hard money loans and stuff like that. So I can usually only handle a few deals at once because all those monthly payments are just like, it gets crazy. But with the private money, it's been like, we got all the money at closing and we don't owe any of it until we close again when we sell it. So it's been way more stress-free. We just get stuff done. We pay people when they're done and we just move on with our lives. It's been awesome.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So you're surveying the lot, right? So you first and foremost, and then you're going to build 2 duplexes on there. Do you know how much you're going to be spending on building those out? And then what's the ARV on those?
Roughly between $125 and $150 a square foot on the build. Just depends on who we end up using, but that's on average what we could get it done for. It'd be like more 2-bedroom, 1-bath each side duplexes. And the ARV in that area for that type of duplex that we're targeting is going to be between 280 and 300,000. The one that I had up on the street there, I had that one for a while. I actually ended up selling that duplex, but like that sold for 280, but there's a couple that have sold for low 3s that they were just a bit more updated than the one that I had up there. So
that's good.
It'll be pretty good. And then even worst case, like a house, like we could, even if we couldn't get the R2 zoning, it'd probably cost us, and we're in a different market, obviously, so the price is a lot different, but we could probably get a nice little 1,200 square foot house built for like $125K, $125 to $150K, and the ARV is probably about the same. Like for a smaller house like that, probably 260, 280.
Yeah, so there's lots of different options that you have on it, which is great because you got that lot. And the timing was perfect too, because he was done he finally went over there and walked that house, and he's like, no, I'm not renovating this place.
Yeah, she was about 20 minutes away, and I guess that was kind of like a family house that had been like passed down. He was the last one to get it, but he was out of Eastridge. These are all suburbs of Chattanooga, Tennessee, but he's like, I just don't ever want to be in Eastridge again. Like, I don't live here. I don't want to drive down here anymore. So yeah, he was ready. And that one, it wasn't a creative deal or anything. We paid him cash and moved on. But I've been really focusing on just like creative deal structure, not trying to present a certain strategy to a seller, because I'm more about like just listening to what the seller has to say. And then out of whatever problem they're solving, I'll just offer them whatever strategy works to get the deal done. But because people have different unique problems, like I've been really interested in pushing like more creative type deals.
Yeah, because it's not a one size fits all type scenario. When it's cool that you had your landscaper in the mix there.
Yeah.
Did you give him a finder's fee?
Yeah, man. And I paid him $1,000 for that. And I told him, I said, any house you bring me, I'll pay you $1,000. If you're out there, if you bring me a small multifamily property that, you know, is distressed for some reason or another, if I close on it, I'll pay you $2,500. So, and I put that out to a bunch of people. $1,000 for a house, $2,500 for 2 units or more. I'd pay that all day long if people are going to bring me deals like that. And if
yeah, you could have a couple deals a month and be like, okay, now I got to pick which ones I want to do. So
yeah,
how is the Chattanooga market? Like, how is it health wise right now from everything that's been going on with the interest rates? Is it still doing pretty good?
Yeah, probably like the whole Chattanooga metro area is probably maybe 400-ish thousand people. So it's not a huge, but it's a small little like metro. The thing about it is markets like Nashville, even in Atlanta, San Diego, LA, out that way, these bigger cities, they were seeing a lot more hits, steep price cuts. I wouldn't say necessarily a crash. Things slowed down, and then we did see some price cuts there for a while. In Chattanooga, it's still such an affordable market that we didn't really see price dips. Things did slow down a little bit, like the days on market. We're seeing a lot of 40, 50, 60 days on market, depending on the price point. But prices never really dipped. We just slowed down a little bit. But it's still very steady. Like I would say in Chattanooga, if you're still under 400,000 price point, then it's moving pretty quick. Anything that's 500 and up, then those are staying long because the monthly payment is just affected so much greater. So it's still pretty healthy. For an area that is pretty affordable, the rents are still really good. So it makes it easier, especially if you're buying multifamily.
Yeah, are they been going up too? Or are they been staying steady?
They're steady. Yeah, I noticed when all that happened, things were sitting on the market longer and rentals are sitting on the market longer. For whatever reason, people just were like, we're not moving. I had a couple vacancies last year and one this year, which that one didn't take too long because it was a smaller, more affordable unit. But, at first it was within a week or two, you were filling units. And I had a couple that sat for about 30 days or so. So not terrible, but slowed down, yeah.
Yeah, and it's hard when you get that 30 days because it feels like it's 3 months.
It does, yeah.
Because you're so used to a certain way of tenant's moving out. I'm going to go clean it up a little bit, get it back on the rental market, get a tenant in there, and you're like, wait. That's not happening. But you're holding mostly the duplexes? Is that what, or do you have single families too?
I have 2 single families, but the rest is small multi. I'm sure in most markets, but even in a market here, Chattanooga is a relatively good cash flow market, but even in a cash flow market, the single families, you might, especially with rates up at that, you might cash flow $200 to $300 a month if you bought a decent deal. But if I get a duplex at a good price, since a duplex almost sells for the same cost as an entry-level house in Chattanooga, but I'm getting double the rents. So both of my duplexes, I did buy them maybe a couple of years ago, but they all cash flow $1,000 a month. And I wasn't buying market value and all that kind of stuff. But even if I get a house at a good deal, it's still hard to really cash flow that much because, again, there's only one rent. If I could rent a 3-bed, 2-bath for $2,000, then with current rates, I need to be at least all in $200,000. If it's less than 1%, you're not really going to cash flow at a 6.5%, 7% interest rate.
Yeah.
I've been shooting for 1.25% or 1.5% rule instead of a 1% rule. That number is working a lot better right now, just with the way rates are. So,
yeah, that's good. So, are you still the handyman for your properties?
No, so I still own the handyman business, but it's funny because I actually have them like fully separate. Like when I buy a deal, so with the real estate business and the handyman business, when I buy a deal, a lot of people are think, oh yeah, of course you would do real estate because like you could do all the work. Like you know how to do all the work. You'll just do the work yourself. And I'm like, well, I actually keep it separate because I'm wasting so much time if I'm trying to do my own maintenance and all that stuff, because I can just pay someone to do that for less than what I would charge to do it. So basically, if I have my guys getting jobs done in the handyman business, and when I buy a deal, I'm running the numbers to pay someone to do the remodel, the rehab, and all that stuff, then you're making money in both areas versus if I'm doing all the repairs and doing all the work, you're making less money. So I actually hire all that stuff out.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. But you did in the beginning, right? Were you
yeah.
working
In the beginning, I was managing my own properties, and I didn't have a lot. I think I managed up to like 4 doors, and then I had one incident that I was just like, yeah, this isn't for me. I enjoy finding the property and managing the construction part of it, and then as soon as it's done, I just pass it to my property manager and just move on, start looking for the next one.
Yeah.
In the beginning smart. I was, yeah.
But it's all a process, right?
Yeah.
You know, in the beginning, and you realize, wait a minute, I don't want to be time sucked if I have all these doors. Next, you know, I'm spending 6 hours a day on property management stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it takes away from the cool stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's harder to make, you know, it really is. It's harder to make like good business decisions too when you're managing. And the incident that had me decide to just start using a property manager was I had bought a property and I was trying to give them the 30-day notice because they had been on month-to-month rent leases for a few years at that point with the old owner. Anyways, I was trying to give them a notice to get out of there so I could renovate and get the rents up because we were way under market. And, you know, I got this whole like, he got angry and I got his whole life story on how he can't move and this and that. And I was like, this is really preventing me from like making a good business decision. Obviously I didn't want to just put him out on the street, but at the same time, it's like, now there's a mortgage on this place. Like things just need to be done. This property, it don't really make sense for me to even own this thing if I do what I need to do. So from that point forward, I moved on, and that's actually a funny story in itself, and I can make it quick, but essentially,
do it.
essentially that tenant in particular, the one I'm talking about, this was the first duplex I ever bought, and he really didn't want to move. It just comes to find out. So we actually worked a deal out with him because his kids go to school right there and everything. So we worked a deal out with him. I said, hey, if you can give me 30 days to fix this unit up for you guys and give you a nicer place to live, I'll let you stay. There'll be a slight increase, but because I don't have to look for a tenant, I'll give you a deal still on the rent. So I kept it like $100 or $200 under market rate. And he thought about it for a little while and they accepted it. So they signed a lease with me starting a month in the future so I could secure myself. And then I had him move out. They put all their stuff in a pods storage container. They stayed with some local family for a month, and we turned the unit and moved him back in at an increased rate. I didn't even have to look for new tenants. So he's still
Smart.
there today. Yeah.
And they're in there today.
They're still there. I've had that place for like 3 years now.
There's something to be said that if you get a tenant that just, you know, doesn't give you any issues and is hassle free and they've been staying, those little slight rent increases are just not even worth it. They just really aren't. It's better to keep them in because the minute you move them out, then you got to do the turnover. You're going to spend money there, and then you don't know who the heck you're getting next. It could be your worst nightmare.
Yeah, absolutely.
Coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, and at a minimum, I don't think I've ever had a unit that didn't at least just need to be painted and cleaned. And so the cost to get things done now, I mean, you can barely get a unit painted for under $2,000, or you're going to be $1,500 to $2,000 depending on the size of the unit. And depending on how good of a deal you have, that could be like a whole year of cash flow just getting the place painted, you know?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I've tried to get better about that. And all the time, like my property manager will email me and say, hey, you know, what's your feelings on this one? Their lease is coming up. Do you want to increase it or not? If I'm already close to market, at least somewhere in the ballpark, I'll leave it. But if there was like a legacy tenant that I inherit, if we're already way under, then I'd rather just take the risk and get them out of there anyways. So that way we can jump. Sometimes it's $500, $600, $700. That's how low they are. So there's a lot of missed opportunity.
Yeah, it's like a puzzle.
Yeah.
And then you have those ones that are really low, but then like your property taxes have gone up, and there's all these other little things that have gone up, but you're still below.
Yeah.
And you have to make that decision for the business as a whole, that you have to kind of move it in a direction, but everything is somewhat at points a case by case.
Yep.
Like, We have one tenant in a duplex, and we haven't raised her rent in a couple years now, I would say. And she just chills, and we just leave her alone.
Yep.
You know, there's no reason to go. And we would probably gain another $100.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not changing it for us.
Yep. Yep.
But then, how many properties do you own now? How many doors do you have right now?
7 doors.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, nothing crazy, but that's it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, 7 doors. I started really buying properties. It was like 2021, man. So like a year before I met you. I bought my first property in 2019, but it was like my own house. I had just gotten out of the Navy. I had some money saved up. So, you know, I bought my house and ended up kind of just like flipping that one while I lived there. And that's what really got it going for me, because I think I bought that house for $104,000, and then I put 20 grand into it while I lived there, and I sold it for $190,000 about like a year and a half later. And I was like, man, that was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And then I just
Light
started
bulb
diving
moment.
in. Then I just started diving in. But from 20, so I probably sold it in like 2020 sometime. And then I just started getting like addicted to just learning about it, man. I just started listening to podcasts, of course, all the bigger pocket stuff that really got me going, and then diving into more specific books on certain things I was missing or trying to learn about. And then really the biggest thing, though, aside from any of that, was when I moved here, just networking and getting in front of people and having like just a network base to tap into every time. Hey, what lender are you using? Or hey, do you know a good attorney? If anything comes up, you can just text a couple people and you'll probably have an answer.
Yeah, and I think that's a big point, because I think that one thing I tell people, they're like, how do you get started? How do you do this? And like, how did you figure this out? And I say, I asked for help.
Mm-hmm.
I just asked for help.
Yeah.
I don't consider myself some super smart person that's got it all figured out. Most of the time when when I'm going in a new direction, I don't have a clue what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'll do some initial research. I start to figure out who can help me do this, who needs to be on my team. And then I just go after those experts. And then I just get them on board and start to learn whatever that strategy is I'm trying to pull off. But you just got to do it. You never start off, and you're never going to figure it all out in real estate. That's the cool thing about it.
No, it's wild.
That's what I love
mean,
about
there's
it.
so many, like, there's so much going on that, I don't think you're just always learning. Because even once you get the traditional pathway learned of buying a property, okay, how does funding work? What's earnest money? You learn all this stuff on just how to buy a property, and then you might do a couple of those, and then there's this whole other world, wraps and owner finance and options and all this creative stuff that then you start learning that stuff, and it's like, okay, now we're doing deals with other people's money, or we're doing deals with no money down, like stuff that you can't even comprehend that until you just know the basic stuff, and that's what I've been diving into now, and it all kind of stemmed from the seminar I went to in February, which was like the best thing I ever did.
Oh, really? Tell me about it.
Yeah, it was so good. Well, and it's not bashing on like Bigger Pockets or anything like that, but Bigger Pockets is really good surface level info, just get you motivated, realize how the asset of real estate is beneficial and all that stuff. And it's been good. I went to their seminars. There's thousands of people there, and you meet a few people. But I went on this cruise in February. It was a cruise / real estate conference, and it was called Generations of Wealth. And I was referred to it by a local guy here in Chattanooga named Mike Hicks. He goes every year, and he invited me to go. And it's just a bunch of like old gray-haired dudes that run it, but they've been in the business for 30 years or whatever. And they're all doing mainly like creative deal structure. And man, it was just awesome, because it was an 8-day cruise. So I was kind of just like on the ship with all these guys and the people attending the seminar for 8 days.
That's a long time.
Yeah, it was great. So the seminar was only four out of the 8 days.
Okay.
So it was a good mix between kind of like a vacation and the seminar. But how they would do it was we'd have, so like the first day of the seminar, we'd have the 2 speakers for the day. And then, so you listen to them speak, and then we get lunch. But we're on a cruise ship, so like we all kind of like, you'll start getting lunch with everybody, and then you go back to the seminar. And then even after the seminar is over, like if you go to Big Pockets, for instance, the speakers talk, and then when they're done, they go backstage. You never see them again, right? They just go sit in the crowd with everybody else, and there's only 20 or 30 of us there. And then after the day's over, they don't even hold it all day. It's over by like 1:30, 2 o'clock. hang out on the ship for the rest of the day. And then we all meet up for dinner. We all have dinner together. And then they have these, they called them these town hall sessions. But every night, even if it was a day that they weren't having speakers, every night in the same room, we'd meet up at 7 p.m. And like we'd bring our like drinks in. Everybody would stop at the bar and grab a drink on the way in. And we would just sit in a big circle and it'd be like, hey, we talked about this today. Like, do any of you guys have deeper questions into that topic or how this worked? And so we're just having this like big mastermind with all the same people, just not on like a planned structure. It's just kind of like a Q&A.
Free flow.
Yeah, it was awesome, man. Anyways, I met this guy named 𝗲𝗃, which you may or may not heard of, or a lot of people that listen to your podcast may have heard of. But 𝗲𝗃 is one of those guys, man, old guy, gray hair. He doesn't have a ton of hair anymore, but he was super smart. And he's from Cartersville, Georgia, and him and his wife, Kim, they live in Florida and Georgia at the moment. They're kind of bouncing around. They're kind of in that like ender phase where they're pretty much retired, but he's like the option guy. Like I learned what options were and how options work. And also he finds all of his deals from door knocking. And that was like a new concept for me. And man, it's just been good because I feel like it's not the most scalable strategy, but it's definitely probably the most effective strategy just because people are getting blasted all day by cold callers, especially if you're high equity or you're pre-foreclosure or this or that. Those people's phones are getting blown up. They either are not going to answer, or as soon as they find out what you're calling about, they hang up on you. And then everybody's mailboxes are stuffed full with mailers. We buy houses cash, all that stuff. So when you show up to someone's house and you knock on their door, they're way less likely to just shut the door on your face or tell you to go away. But the biggest thing, honestly, that I learned this year was how he talks to people. Like he doesn't just show up and say, hey, I was going through the Hamilton County eviction list and I saw that you're going through an eviction. I'm here today because I was interested in buying your house. He will say something more like, hey, I'm talking to landlords today that are going through evictions. What can you tell me about it? And he'll ask them 10 questions before he will propose anything to them. He'll just keep asking them questions. Then he learns the whole thing. If he finds that they're like, oh, it's just another day in the business. Yeah, I had an eviction, but like we're turning the unit. They can tell that it's not distressed. And he's like, okay, I understand. He moves on. He's looking for that. He's looking for someone to give him enough information that he's okay, there's a problem there that I can solve. And then he goes in. So basically just asking questions, which one leads to a way more natural conversation and finding out.
And to sell.
Yeah. And trying
to put the deal together.
Right. And he even tells people, I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm here to help you if I can. Let me ask you a couple questions. And then you just find out if there's a problem or not. And if there is, you capitalize on trying to help them out.
Did you use that knowledge on the property you just closed on?
Yes, in a way. That one was just a true, like he wanted out. So in that case, the big hammer worked, cash offer. He just wanted cash. He wanted to walk away. He didn't want to be attached to the property at all. So owner financing is out. If it had a mortgage on it, sub 2 is out, all that kind of stuff. So that one, we didn't have to get into the weeds as much on it. We just gave him the number he wanted and that was it. But the other deal that I got under contract shortly after that was a lot of just talk, like asking questions and not doing a lot of talking like I'm doing now, just listening and coming up with a solution.
So tell me the structure. So you said options, wraps. Let's give a version of what that really means.
Yeah. So like I kind of touched on it in the beginning, but one of the most important things I learned from 𝗲𝗃 is stop going out and looking for a house to buy. Start going out and you don't know if are you there to buy the house? Are you there to rent the house? Are you there to, maybe there's nothing that you can offer them. Start going out and looking for problems that you might be able to solve. And so with that, that's a problem with wholesalers and other people like, oh, I really want to go get a sub 2 deal. I want to get a sub 2 deal. And it's like, if you reduce yourself to sub 2 only, there's way less opportunity to get a deal. So why not go out and look for problems? And out of all the strategies that there are to buy real estate, offer that to solve their problem. And you're way more likely to get the deal. And you're open to just more available deals in general. If you're going out only getting cash offers, sometimes cash is not going to solve their problem, why they want to get rid of the house in the first place.
Yeah, it's identifying their problem, trying to figure it out first and foremost and seeing what you can do, then structuring it out.
Yeah. So always find the problem, then structure the deal into exactly what they're asking for. So, and as far as what you're asking, add those tools in your toolbox as like, back to 𝗲𝗃, and I'm actually going to another one of his seminars in September in Florida. But, there's cash, there's owner finance. If maybe it's an older landlord that's looking to exit the business and trying to spread out his tax liability, Maybe it's sub 2 if they're underwater, but they're locked into a super good rate because they bought 5 or 6 years ago. Maybe it's an option. Maybe they don't want to sell now, but they're tired of dealing with the property. So maybe you master lease the house from them with an option to buy in the next 5 years when they are ready to sell. So now they get the cash flow they're used to, but you'll take care of getting the property rented out and take care of the maintenance, and you'll secure an option on the property so you can buy it in 5 years from now at a predetermined price now. Those would be like some of your main ones, but just let them talk to you and then pick one of those. And the option thing, man, that kind of blew my mind. That's like one of my favorite strategies now. I haven't actually executed an option agreement yet, but there's a lot more that goes into it. And so I'm still learning and looking for those opportunities. But again, not forcing it, not like, oh, these options sound cool, let me just go try to lock up a bunch of options on properties. It's just they only work in really specific situations.
Well, I think more so is the fact that you went on the cruise, you went in these groups, and then now you're aware of it.
Yeah.
So it's going to be in the back of your head for that moment when you meet up with that owner and it makes sense and you know it right away.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest key to it all.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
It's just, you just got the knowledge. It's in your back pocket. It's like part of your toolbox, so to speak.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And it was like just the right timing too, because they advertised that seminar as an advanced real estate seminar. But like, if you were just starting, if you would have went to that seminar, it would have just been like a fire hydrant. You went to collected the real gold that was there. That's why Bigger Pockets is good for, you're just collecting this base level knowledge, right? And then when you go to the more advanced stuff, now you're just like filling some empty holes that you had.
Right.
Versus if you would have been a beginner to that one, it would have been a bunch of info dumped on you and you wouldn't have really walked away with some value there. You're like, your brain would have hurt really bad. So I was able to actually go home and implement it, like you said, because it was like, okay, I already had all this base knowledge. I've already done several deals. So I just like filled all these other little holes in my brain of like missing pieces of info. And now it's like this open world of so many other different ways to do things. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. How much was this?
Oh man. And it's like half the price of Bigger Pockets too. But so that Generations of Wealth, the seminar ticket is like $700. And then you also have to buy the cruise ticket because it's on the cruise ship, which can be anywhere from like $1,200 to like $2,500. It depends on what room you want and all that kind of thing. But you'll get a little bit of a deal because you're using their travel agent. They're getting like some special pricing for the event. But like Bill Kirk's, so he has he calls it What Box. It's called the What Box seminar, and it's in Florida. So what box ? When people think outside the box. Well, he'll say like, what box? So anyways, What Box seminar. That seminar is like $600, and you just have to get to Tampa, Florida. And
That's it.
It's 2 days at a hotel down there. Yeah.
And the main focus is more creative financing. That's
creative like deal structuring. So not necessarily creative finance might be part of like the deal structure, but it's more on creative deal structure. And what he means by that is kind of what I'm explaining to you. Like the best deals come from solving weird, complicated problems that people have that may cause them to have to sell a piece of real estate. And so that's what's blowing my mind. And you don't hear a lot of people talking about it like that. And once I changed that mindset, how I started hearing them talk about it, it was like, wow, you really could have a way higher closing rate if you were going at deals like that than just going like, how low can I get this seller on the price and give him a cash offer? Because what if someone's like, yeah, I want to sell my house, but I need $250,000. And it's like, well, I'm paying you cash. I can only pay $175,000. Like it's $175,000 or I can't do the deal. And they're like, okay, well, I'm not selling you my house then because I need.
Right, you just missed that opportunity of trying to figure out how to structure it.
Well, what if they're willing to hold the note, and what if they own it free and clear, or maybe they only have $80,000 of debt on it, and you take the $80,000 subject to, and you owner finance the rest of that equity, and you get them to give you all your payments to them are principal pay down, so you can pay the $250,000 as long as they give you at least a 10-year note, because by the time you have to refinance, you'll have paid off so much principal balance that you'll have no problem refinancing them or whatever. So now you can pay $250,000, right?
Yeah.
So once I can look at stuff like that, I was like, man, this is a game changer.
That's cool. That's so great.
Yeah.
So what else have you been up to recently? You've been riding? I know you did a big race. Where was that? Was that big race in Florida?
Yeah, man, it was. Yeah. Aside from real estate, I've been in my high school years, I was like really into more endurance style, like cross country racing. And then throughout the Navy and just more of my adult life, I've been really into just more aggressive, like enduro, right? Berms and jumps and how big can I go and all that stuff. But I've been going back into the pain cave a little bit and starting to enjoy just going out for hours and seeing how like hard I can push myself. So yeah, I did a race in Florida, across the state of Florida in February. That was actually right before that cruise that I was telling you about. And it was awesome, man. 72 hours, like 360 miles. It was a 72-hour cutoff. And it was a mixture. That one was a mixture between cycling, paddling, and trekking. So trekking would be just whether you're hiking or running, you just have to get there. So that one was not a traditional just bike event. They actually call it adventure racing. I don't know if
That's cool.
I don't know if you've heard of adventure racing.
No, man, I've never heard that. I was like, wait, you had to get on, you had to paddle on a boat? Is that what you just said?
Yeah, like it was a
canoe.
So an adventure race it's those three disciplines. It's mountain biking, paddling, and trekking is what they call it.
Okay.
And this one was a 72-hour, so they call that an expedition race. So it's a regular adventure race, or an expedition is anything more than like 20. An expedition, I think, is 72 hours or more. And usually 72 hours to 5 days is like a normal expedition race. But in that, there was probably a total of 200 something miles of cycling, about 60 miles of paddling, and about 60 miles of trekking.
60 miles of paddling.
Yeah. So there was 2 paddle sections. How it works also is, the other caveat to it is, it's not a marked course. There's a finish line, and they drop you off at the start, which was on the other side of Florida. It was like a 3-hour bus ride. And there's no marked course. It's a self-oriented race. So they provide you the maps with checkpoints on them, and you orient your way across the state as long as you're hitting those checkpoints. And so everybody's going a different way, whatever you feel is the fastest. So you have to know how to read maps, use a compass. You know, do we want to go this way, or is it going to be faster to stick on the road, or should we kind of just cut through the woods right here? So you're making your own way across the course. And then they have transition areas. So it might be, for instance, like we started out with a paddle. It was like a 6-hour paddle. Obviously, we didn't know exactly how long it was going to take us in the beginning, but we went from coastline to coastline. So we started like in this bay, and we could see where we need to finish. And we were like, it's roughly this many miles, and we measured it out. So it's probably going to take us X amount of time. That one took us about 6 hours. And then it was right into a bike. It was like an 80-mile bike, which was a mix between like gravel roads, paved roads. We were on the Florida Trail for a little bit, which was a single track. So I think total out of that whole adventure anyways, there was like 3 or 4 cycling sections. There was 2 paddles, and there was 2 trekking sections. And the second paddle, it took us 8 hours. We were in a canoe for 8 hours. I was on a 4-man team. Yeah.
Oh, so you're on a team. Okay. All right. That's cool.
You can go from a solo up to a 4-man team, and then all male, all female, or co-ed. And so I was on a 4-man all male team, but you all have to finish the race together. If you don't all finish, then you get disqualified. And how you win is finishing the entire course before the cutoff, and who collects the most checkpoints. So you don't even have to collect all the checkpoints, but that's how you win. Most checkpoints collected and finished before the cutoff.
Are you in the Everglades?
It was crazy, man. No, this one we were actually up north in Florida. It was from St. Myers to St. Augustine, which is up by the Panhandle, and then we went all the way across to St. Augustine.
No gators and snakes.
No, but quite a bit.
Like,
Yeah, quite a bit of wildlife. Actually, so that race is called the Sea-to-Sea, and that was a brand new course, but they actually do normally hold it further south. So this was the first year they held it up where they had it. So it was a new course. It actually ended up being way harder than they thought it was going to be. And out of 100 and I think it was like somewhere around 150 teams, only 10 teams actually finished the entire original planned course. And we were the 10th one.
Really?
Yeah,
wow.
We were the 10th one. That was my first adventure race. Yeah. So the last paddle was a few hours in a river inland, and it dumped us out into the ocean because the last paddle was pretty close to the end. At the end of that paddle, it was 1 bike to the finish. Anyways, it dumped you out into the ocean, and there was this big bay that we had to cross. And it was like 1 a.m. by the time we got dumped into that bay. And we were actually like the 3rd or 4th team to get there. And these storms were rolling through, and the bay was really big, and so the water got really rough. And the first place team dumped their canoe in the middle of the bay at 1 a.m. And so they had to get all their stuff to shore. Actually, they ended up having to send somebody out to help them. We have these trackers on us, and that you don't have phones or anything because it's self-orienteered. So they don't want you to cheat. So they actually had to come help them out. And so if you were already going, they were letting us go, right? But because the weather wasn't getting any better, they redirected the course, and anybody who hadn't got to the bay yet, once they got to the bay, they were having them cut that section short for safety reasons. So so we were like one of the 10 teams that actually completed the entire course. The rest of the teams had to do an alternate route, which means they also missed some of the checkpoints. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Dude, this sounds crazy.
It was wild, man. It was really good. So I'm doing another adventure race next month, but this one's only a 10-hour. So they call them speed races, but it'll be the same 3 disciplines, but within 10 hours. I think it's 30 to 40 miles of cycling, like 10 to 12 miles of trekking, and 10 to 12 miles of paddling. So
weren't you doing some running as well? Did you do some running?
Yeah.
I thought I saw that.
Yeah, like I said, I've just been going down the rabbit hole of endurance stuff lately, because how it started was I was training for that 72-hour race. So, and by the way, in between the segments, the turn doesn't stop, right? You have to finish it in 72 hours. So like if you sleep, it's up to you. You have to strategize when you're going to sleep. Are we still going to have enough time to finish? Yada, yada, yada. So because you're going through the night from a paddle right into a bike, right into a 30-mile hike, you're just going. We might stop and, hey, let's get like a quick little 2 hours, because like we can't even read the map anymore. We were paddling that one at midnight, and we kept thinking we saw the shoreline, but we'd get there and it wasn't there. So out of the 72 hours, we did it on 4 hours of sleep, because you got to sleep, right?
Yeah.
Or you just can't do it. So to answer your question, I was training for that race. And because of the trekking and just the amount of time on your feet and stuff, I picked up trail running. So to this point in my whole life, I've only ever raced mountain bikes, rode a lot of road bikes for cross training, you know what I mean? But I was like, man, I got to start probably trail running to kind of train for this race. So I started trail running, and Megan, my girlfriend's already like a pretty avid trail runner. She's run 50 milers, 100 milers.
Really?
Yeah. We'll be out in Phoenix again in October for the Javelina 100. That'll be her second year doing that. She ran the 100 miler in 19 hours last year, and her goal this year is 17 hours. So she's on the crazy trail running stuff. And so I was like, well, I'm just going to start like picking her brain. I'm just going to start running to train for this race. And I just went down a different rabbit hole with that and was running a lot. And so even after the adventure race, I was like, probably in the best shape that I've been in my life endurance wise. And I was like, the trail running thing's kind of cool. That's a whole other level. Like you go ride 100 miles on your bike, like your butt hurts, your legs are a little sore, but you're good. You go run 30 miles and you feel like your life's about to fall apart. Like things stop moving, your stomach hurts, your hamstrings are so tight you can barely walk. So after I was like, I want to go run. Megan she had a 50K coming up, which is 30 miles. And I was like, okay, I want to go do that. So I did it. I just kept the training going and I did it. And man, it was miserable. Like I said, I kind of just fell apart. I made it up to 20 miles pretty good. The last 10 miles, I was having a really hard time. So I'm going to run for 60 seconds, walk for 60 seconds, run for 60 seconds, walk. And then it went to, I'm going to run for 30 seconds, walk for 60 seconds. And then it went to like, I'm just going to walk until I feel like I can run again. And so I still did pretty good though. So I finished a 50K in 6 hours and 30 minutes. And Megan finished her 50K in 4 hours and 45 minutes. And she whooped my butt. But so yeah, that's just kind of snowballed. So now I'm trying to redeem myself on the 50K. So I'm doing another, which is 30 miles. So I'm doing another 30 miler in November, in which I plan on being able to run the entire thing without stopping. So that's my goal. And meanwhile, later that month, she'll be running 100 miles. So
yeah, that's cool. It's funny. Back in November, around Thanksgiving, I started getting into running. I just wanted to have another fitness discipline that was something that I could just go out the front door, go 30 minutes, get that workout out instead of having to plan a route and be out, you know what I mean? Go out there for 2-3 hours. Just that's something to get up and go. And then all of a sudden I started, I got 30 minutes in And I was like, holy shit, I feel so good. Like I got runner's high. Like it was the dopamine hit. I'm like, dude, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Did a 5K race on
Yeah.
Thanksgiving Day. And then of course, then I'm like, oh, all right. So I want to do a half marathon by New Year's Day. So then New Year's Day, so then I started going from 3 miles to 5 to 7 to 10. And then New Year's Day, I'm like, all right, I'm going for it. About 11 miles in. And all of a sudden, but legs just, no, you're stopping. And I'm like, no, I'm going to push through this. I can push through it on the bike. And then I learned really quick, that's not how it works with running.
Yeah, it's different.
Like when shit falls apart, man, it falls apart. I had to call my wife. I called her. I said, hey, I can't walk. You got to come pick me up. And I was pissed off because, from doing endurance, especially for cycling, like big races and just big miles, doing a 20 to 30 mile run to me seems easy mentally.
Right.
Like, oh, I can do this because I've done longer and I can go out there for 4 hours, but it's not. It's the impact and there's just other things that have played into it.
Yep.
So now I've reverted all the way back down. I don't do anything more than 6 miles right now. But I do want to start trail running. The brain that I got here, I want to I want to go do Cocodona.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to do Cocodona.
Wow.
I think I
Yeah,
DM'd you.
like, hey, you want to go do this? I was like, no. Not yet. Because I think I had just wrapped up that Florida race and like, man, even like that 30-mile hike, like I'd rather run 30 miles than hike 30 miles because run 30 miles, means you're on your feet for 4 to 6 hours, depending on how fast you are. Hike 30 miles, that's 8 to 12 hours on your feet. It was just like terrible. But yeah, you should do Cocodona, man.
Well, it's funny. When I saw the race, I'm like, all right, that's cool. It's far. You're not really running the whole thing. You're hiking. And then I was hearing everybody talk about like, oh, the sleep deprivation and seeing things. And then, of course, in my head, I'm going, well, I've been sleep deprived in the past. And it was a whole different ball game. So I don't know. Maybe it's going to be okay being out in nature going through that. And so that kind of like started intriguing me. But I'm like, maybe I'll start with some smaller scenarios. Like I said, I haven't even started trail running yet. It's been either at the gym or on the roads. But let me ask you this. Here's another little mental thing I noticed about running. I'm so used to going faster on the bike compared to running. Do you get that? Like, how do you feel when you're out on the trails? Does it feel like, because you like ripping trails and doing jumps, and all of a sudden now you're running, you're going slower. Is it just a completely different discipline, different vibe? And you're just like, yeah, this is just different.
Yeah, it is, man. Like really the only thing I get out of, I still prefer riding bikes. For me, bikes are just fun. Like I just want to be out on my bike. But anyways, what I get out of trail running is just the same thing as being an endurance athlete. Like, as you know, is okay, like, that seems hard. Let me do it. Like this is starting to suck. Let me see how far I can push myself. But yeah, when I first started trail running, it was like, okay, if I'm going to go run a 5K, I can push myself as hard as I can and I'll make it through the full 3 miles, right? Like we'll be done in 20 minutes. I just have to last 20 minutes. I'll run as hard as I can. But then you go do something where, okay, I'm going to go run, even if I'm going to go run 12 miles. Okay, I'm going to be outside. I'm going to be out here for like an hour and a half. So I'm going to have to, let me run a little slower. But yeah, you're looking, okay, I'm running a 10-minute pace. I'm running a 10-minute 30 pace, and it feels slow. But I guess once you break that barrier a couple of times and you realize I have to stay at this pace to be able to try to last as long as I'm going to last. But yeah, that's pretty painful because it's not fun, man. It's like trying through the woods. But what I do enjoy about it goes back to what you said earlier is I still rather be on my bike, but some days it's nice to just grab my running vest, grab my trail shoes, and I'm out the door. I'm not planning I don't have to load anything up, check tire pressure. I don't need a helmet, none of that kind of stuff. And then the other part that I like about it is this, it kind of sounds weird, but like something about trail running just feels like super primal. Like you're just out there in the woods running the single track trail. Even if you're doing like just a 12-mile run or whatever, you're out there for an hour and a half just like thumping through the woods, and it's a different feeling than going through so fast on a bike that you don't even really see what's around you. Yeah, when you're running, you're kind of like enjoying everything. Like you hear stuff in the trees. It's a whole other experience for sure.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Another thing you should consider, because you're having issues with it, and I was too, when I tried my first 50K and I blew up after 20 miles and the last 10 miles was really bad. Like you said, it's higher impact. There's way more muscles that you're using. And I was developed as a cyclist. So like I was lacking in a lot of places that you need to be strong as a runner. And so after that, I was like, man, I want to run 50K. I want to start being able to do this way stronger, not having to walk. So I started going to, there's a gym here called Crux, and it's a conditioning gym, and they only work with, well, they'll work with anybody, but a lot of their clientele is cyclists, runners, and like climbers, basically. And it's all like core programming. They program your workouts, but it's all based on like the type of conditioning and strengthening that you need to do for like those types of sports. And so, yeah, because after I'd hit an hour and a half running, my hamstring would get so tight that like the side of my knee would start hurting because my hamstring was pushing on my IT band and stuff like that. And now I've been going there for even just a couple months, man, with just what they've had me doing. I think I'm like 2 hour and a half runs deep now without any knee pain. So it's been making a big difference for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think endurance sports definitely translates into our businesses.
Yeah.
Just the mindset and powering through things, and there's dark times, it's difficult. I really do think there's a big correlation with endurance sports and being an entrepreneur or a real estate investor. I think they have a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
Honestly.
And just life in general too. When you go through something that's like that hard to where like at first you're like, this is cool, I'm in the woods, and then you start really going into the pain cave and you're like, I hate getting outside, I want to be done now. Like then just in your normal life, when something comes up, like, yeah, it sucks, but it's not really a big deal. Like we could solve that pretty easily. Like big tasks or things that are really daunting to normal people just start to become like small, less, what's the right word? Just less of a big deal because like you got bigger fish to fry, whether it's because you've gone through some crazy stuff just in the endurance world, or you're just solving way bigger problems in the kind of business that we're in, you know? So
right.
I've noticed that for sure.
Yeah, that's true. That's good. You got any other goals that you got your eyes on in the next year or so? You're trying to focus on?
What's that?
Yeah, that you're trying to focus on? Both business and...
Yeah, as for in the business side of things, I've been doing this since I started, which, you know, I haven't been doing this very long, a little over 3 years, but one of the things I've done just naturally since I've started was like do a flip or two, use that cash plus money from my business to buy a rental, a duplex or a triplex or whatever, then do a couple flips, buy a property, save some money, buy a property. And so one of the next things I really want to do is just buy some like mid-size apartment. The duplexes and the triplexes here, they're pretty profitable, but if I were into like one solid 12 unit, that's like way more life-changing than another $500 or $600 a month added. If I can add maybe a few grand extra a month to my cash flow, would be awesome. And since I'm just getting way more versed in some more creative ways to do things and more unique situations to look for to be able to find actual deals, I feel like I could probably find one that makes sense. And so that's kind of one of my next goals, because if you're just looking at mid-size apartments on Crexy or just actual MLS listed properties, they want to sell, but they want to sell for some other motive. They want a 1031 or there's no real motivation for apartments, particularly all these apartments that have bought the last 3 to 5 years, and all those loans are coming due right now. And they're going from a 4% interest rate to a 7.5% interest rate. They're not profitable anymore. So they're either going to have to be offloading these things, or maybe they refinance because I'm just going to try to make it work. And now they're not performing on their loans because the property just doesn't make enough money because they bought too high or whatever. I feel like there's going to be a lot of apartment opportunity in general. I am for like going as big as you can, but I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm going to go look for a 200 unit. Like for me, the next like attainable thing in my brain is like somewhere between like 10, 12 units, or maybe even 10 to 20 units. But because like my property manager could handle that, me and someone in my network, I would be able to put that type of deal together. So that's kind of my next goal as far as real estate stuff is. And then the handyman business, really, I just use that for extra income with the cash flow. It's tempting to try to scale that business, but I really don't want employees. And part of the reason why I'm doing all this is because I'm flexible. If I want to take off somewhere for a week, I just don't schedule anything. And so the money's tempting, but I don't want to do that. And then on the personal side, like I said, right now I'm just really enjoying kind of like the endurance events. So just trying to do a couple like good sized runs or rides a year, or like actual events. I'm training every several days a week, but doing a couple more like cool long distance things. I'd really like to do some type of gravel bike, like bike packing thing, like a multi-day biking event would be sick. And then other than that, as far as personal, just continuing with the real estate stuff, just being able to be flexible and present and go do what I want, go ride, design my business so I can just go ride my bike and go visit my parents, be present with my friends and stuff here that while we're actually out doing stuff and being able to enjoy it.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Where can everybody find you?
On Instagram, it's at Gagnon REI. My last name's GAGNON REI. So that's Instagram. And on Facebook, it's just Cody Gagnon. GAGNON. Yep.
It's good. Well, I'm glad I was able to get you on. And I knew when I was driving here, I was like, okay, this is going to be cool because I know we have a lot of similarities with the biking and just everything, and just meeting at the Bigger Pockets conference. We latched on for that last day. So it was good to get you on, but hopefully someday maybe we can do a really cool trail race.
Yeah, we're a ways away, but a lot of the cool like trail run type stuff there's a lot out here, but a lot of the iconic stuff is kind of out west, and we're always out there once or twice a year. So if you ever are getting into a cool 50K or 50 miler or something out there, maybe I can get out there and we can do it at the same time.
Let's do it. Well, I appreciate you jumping on today, man. I hope you have a good rest of your week, and we'll definitely talk soon.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you inviting me. I'm excited that we got to do it, and hopefully there's some more to come with that.
Yeah, let's do a race.
For it. All right.
All right. Talk to you soon.
See you, man. Thanks.
All right. Bye. Thank you for tuning into our show, where we hope you found inspiration and gained valuable insights. If you enjoyed this conversation and want to stay updated on our latest episodes, be sure to subscribe to our podcast and share it with others who might benefit from it. We appreciate your support and look forward to bringing you more candid conversations and breakthrough moments in the future. Until next time, take care and keep exploring new ideas and strategies.